The
Welcome in here to Rover Sports, and we're back with another episode. Really happy to have my guys in here, Jets Central and Matty Shanks. Matty Shanks, right here, repping the Giants blue, and Matt, how's your week going? You know, Giants stepped up and played a little football on Sunday. How are you, big guy?
I'm doing pretty well, man. For a Thursday night, hanging out with you guys. There's no place I'd rather be right now. And it's getting down to the nitty gritty. I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday season. Obviously, happy holidays to you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. I'm just excited for this time of year. My favorite time of the year. Really getting down to the bowl season and really getting down to the final two weeks of the regular season for the NFL. So I'm super stoked about getting into talking about this discussion right now.
So, Matt, what bowl games are you really looking forward to? I mean, I know you'll probably be watching the big New Year's games. Is there any other teams or any other bowl games that you're also excited to see?
Well, yesterday we had a really interesting game, with FAU, with Lane Kiffin signing that new 10-year contract for FAU, really turning that program around in basically 1 year's time, having 10 wins, compared to having, 9 wins in a combined 3-year span for the franchise. And he turned that's the whole franchise around, really just, recruiting the right guys, stealing guys from, like Nick Saban and, Gus Malzahn and really some big name guys in the SEC to go to FAU, of all names to go to FAU. Lane Kiffin's really the driver of that program, and it's just I'm just excited for what's to come, for that FAU. Hopefully they can really make it ranked, hopefully soon, and especially when Lane Kiffin being there. And so I'm excited for that bowl game we watched yesterday.
Yeah, FAU, it's crazy what Lane Kiffin's doing over there in Boca Raton. I'm really excited for it. I know I actually have family ties, with FAU. So I'm always down there all the time. It's funny, they actually got big just like pictures of Lane Kiffin just like randomly posted like across the school, like on random buildings, inside classrooms, just like, oh, there's Lane Kiffin. Like it's weird how it works like that.
In a jokingly way or like in an egotistical way, or is it a complete troll by Lane?
Just imagine like in random classrooms and like on the sides of like random buildings, you have like fat heads of like Lane Kiffin's face. Like that's what it's like. Just random things like that. So it's all pretty
Lane,
cool.
He might have had something to do with that.
Yeah, probably. The one game, well, of course there's multiple bowl games that, I'm looking forward to, but the one I'm like really kind of intrigued to watch is USC, Ohio State, two teams that kind of struggled a little early on in the college football season, but then it kind of turned it up late. I think both teams are going to go into the game wanting to prove something. Ohio State's case being we should have made it in the top 4, and then USC kind of saying, we can play somebody outside of the Pac-12 and beat them. So can't wait for that game. And then obviously, we have the playoff like Oklahoma, Georgia, and Clemson, Alabama. So it should be some awesome stuff this bowl season.
I'm excited to see like Iowa State, Memphis, see Riley Ferguson, Anthony Miller in that type of environment play against Matt Campbell and a guy that had a really good year with the Clones. But then Drew Lock, this could be Drew Lock's last game. I hope it is because I want to see him go right to the NFL. And one thing is, Ian, as we look at Drew Lock of Missouri, I think the guy is tremendous, but this QB class is such there's so many guys in this quarterback class that it might be advantageous for him to wait. Now his offensive coordinator left. He won like maybe 6 straight games. His stock is just really at a high level though right now, Ian. So what do you think about Drew Lock, and how do you think he'll play versus Texas, and do you think he should commit to the NFL?
It's a tough call. I really like Drew Lock as a prospect. I think his stock will rise after the combine, after the pro day and whatnot, after a physical, when he puts his physical traits kind of out on the market to where NFL coaches and coordinators can see. I think his stock will rise a little bit like Patrick Mahomes a little bit. I think Patrick Mahomes is another one of those guys that, you watch him at Texas Tech, like in the middle of the season, not that many people are talking about him. And then once like the combine hits and the pro days hit, it's just the hype kind of surrounds one prospect, and then this past year it was actually two. It was Trubisky and Mahomes. But, as far as Drew Lock goes, he reminds me a lot of Patrick. A lot of the same similar stuff you see mechanically. Both have really live arms, but at the same time, they don't really Texas Tech and Missouri, they haven't really won that many games. It's not like a Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma where they're in the college football playoff, or Deshaun Watson by that mean. So I do like Lock maybe as a day two guy. Round two, I want to say middle round two, anywhere from pick I want to say 33 through 50. I see that's where kind of Drew Lock's range is.
Sure. Matt, what quarterback prospects do you like coming out of the draft? What are some names that you really like?
Well, definitely the two that really pop in my head when I first think of the question is really Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. I hope, that's pending if Sam Darnold does come out this year. And I just really like his tools. He really, when he gets out of the pocket, he makes great decisions, when he comes out of the pocket. I really just like, his stature in the pocket. Josh Rosen's another guy, too, that also can be a project as well, coming out of UCLA, has had injury issues and other issues, off the field as well. But, I'm trying to think of the guy from Wyoming. He's a really prototypical 6'5" guy.
Josh Allen.
I do like Josh Allen a lot. He's got that prototypical 6'5" type of quarterback, 220 pounds, and kind of reminds me of Carson Wentz's story, because how he started out at North Dakota State and really just doing very good things for the Bison.
Shenko, have you heard of the name Luke Falk, Washington State?
Yeah, I've heard of him. He's got I really do enjoy watching him play up there in Washington. He's got a good arm, and watching film of him, really knowing how he makes reads very well. Really throwing it to the
feet. He reminds me of a guy that could go to New England and be like a Jimmy Garoppolo understudy. That's kind of going to be scary. And the one thing is, like Luke Falk's personality, he doesn't have much of a personality other than just loving football. Like he doesn't have much of a life outside of football. Even Coach Leach called him a boring guy. And I think that goes a long way in the draft process, because you're going to want somebody that you're going to be able to trust in that kind of scenario, and a great leader. And that's when I look at Josh Rosen and even Lamar Jackson. These are guys that are more polarizing personalities. Baker Mayfield as well.
And I'll tell you, going down the line, I know he's not going to come out this year, but I really think that I'm really bad with names, but that Auburn quarterback, really played super well.
Stidham.
I do like Stidham. His prototypical arm, and he's got great size. And I just love how he played so well against Georgia, beating Georgia, beating some of the top 5 teams, in the past couple of weeks. And he didn't really perform that well in the SEC championship game against Georgia. But I really think that he's got the tools to really be successful at the next level. Playing in big games at big moments. He's got a good arm. He makes. He's pretty good, accurate at times. So I do like Stidham as an NFL prospect as well.
Yeah, and JC, I wanted to ask you this question that kind of rolls right in. We saw Stidham kind of have success on Georgia. But that was really the only team in college football that has had success playing against the Dogs defense. And now, Georgia, now Baker Mayfield gets that task of going against Georgia. I mean, do you see Oklahoma putting up numbers on Georgia?
Love the question. It's, I feel like this is such a hard question for, not only fans of football, but just like diehard fans of Oklahoma, diehard fans of Georgia. I think this is a real tough question, because definitely two different styles of play, both excel at what they do from two different conferences, obviously. I cannot wait for the game.
Me too.
I think
styles.
Yeah, I think either one of two things happens. I don't think one team dominates. I think either Oklahoma comes out to a fast start and catches Georgia, I don't want to say sleeping, but just catches them off guard, and Oklahoma puts up a lot of points early. Or I think Georgia comes out to a nice they can neutralize this Oklahoma offense, and then halftime adjustments being made by Lincoln Riley will have the Sooners kind of back on track in the second half. So could go either way. I do think Oklahoma will come out to like a quick early lead. I want to say maybe 17-0, 17-3 early, and then it start to kind of slow down, and then Georgia kind of start to build their way back into the game.
Okay. And if OU gets down early, you think that it's then going to be really tough for them to come back?
No, it's just it all depends on what the Georgia Bulldogs offense can do, and if Fromm can make the throws, the third down conversions, the third and longs, can this guy convert on the downs that need to be made? If he can't, then I think Oklahoma could win this game. But I think if Fromm is clicking and he's doing everything that the coaches are asking of him, hitting his throws, I think the Bulldogs can win this game. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but I think at the end of the day, this is just such a tough game to call.
Mm-hmm. Then he can kind of stay on the field. And Matt, do you kind of have a feel with Georgia and Oklahoma right now?
Well, I think this game could go easily either way. They're both, very good teams, coming from in their respective conferences. And when you look at both teams right now, I mean, I feel like the layoff is really going to hurt Oklahoma, and for this reason, because I feel like them having all this time off. I know Georgia's having the same time off, but I just feel like Oklahoma was having such a momentum going into that Big 12 championship game against TCU. They were firing at all cylinders. Really, they played so well against TCU. They ended up routing them in the game. Dominant in all three phases of the game. And that I feel like this layoff, it's so bad. And I wanted to jump into this conversation because I'm so die hard about this because I love college football as much as you guys and much as the people down south. And the thing is, when it comes to football, especially college, I feel like the whole December, not having any games really just hurts college as a whole, and having all these meaningless bowl games that really don't mean anything. I mean, you've seen it in years past where these players like McCaffrey and other key name guys that don't even play in these games to save their NFL their NFL prospects for the draft, and to risk injury, and it really is losing its lack and luster. And I feel like if they ever expanded the playoff to 16 teams, I just feel like they could just easily spread it out in the course of December instead of having this long layoff for these teams, and it just hurts teams that are just doing so well. But I just want to get your guys' take on it, and how college football can be much better than it is today.
Yeah, I definitely think that the playoff should be – I'll let you talk in a sec, Spencer. I know I kind of cut you off. But
no, it's okay.
I think they should definitely expand it, to say the least. I think 16 teams might be a little too much because it's like you're rewarding teams at 15 and 16. That's like middle of the road. But I think 8 is a fair number. I also wouldn't be opposed to guaranteeing every conference champion a spot in the playoff. And the best group of 5 team to get in the playoff, because then every single team in every single conference will have something to play for. I mean, you're not going to have this debate where we saw it last year where Penn State goes on, beats Ohio State, and then wins the Big Ten championship. Then they don't even get in. And you're just going to erase that whole problem. Every conference champion gets in, and then maybe you could throw in 2 wild card or something like that.
For the group of 5s, though, you could have undefeated group of 5s like UCF and FAU. I think the top 2 group of 5s, instead of playing their championship, should get boosted up to a playoff game. And the winner of that group of 5 gets in, whether it could be FAU or UCF. I think that would be great, because then that would give FAU a great opportunity. And then if the playoff is at 8 teams, you can either have them at both sites, but it would be even cooler and more revenue producing to have the 8 playoff teams play home games for the first round. And I think that would be so dope, to have Alabama host a team, then to have the home seed host a team. And then you get down to the Final Four that we're in right now. For all the other bowl games, though, I don't necessarily have a problem with it at all. It's a big-time feat for the seniors. Most of these guys, I'd say 90% of the players playing in these bowl games don't have NFL aspirations. So this for them is really the coolest moment of their football careers. And then also I think that the bowl games do help because these coaches then get 3 weeks to see the younger class of kids that the red shirts, the freshmen that didn't get to play much. It's great, valuable experience for those coaches to see. The elder classmen playing in the game, they just mostly sit out and then they just practice like it's a regular week. But if you're a great player, like a McCaffrey, like a Fournette, absolutely, if you're not in the playoff, if I were their agent, 1,000%, I would not want them risking themselves. Because look at what happened to Jalen Smith of the Irish. That linebacker ended up losing 4 rounds. I think Sidney Jones lost a lot of draft capital too. So, yeah.
Yeah, when I look at the playoff as a whole right now, it's really great. But, like I said, the layoff really just hurts a lot of teams. But, I just enjoy, watching, these great teams go at it. And I'm not I'm not saying I'm opposed to the bowl games per se, but I just feel like you should keep those bowl games around for teams who don't make it into the playoff system, like the bracket, and also, I just feel like if they ever implemented that, like, because college basketball as well, they have the bracket system. And it's definitely one of the best playoff bracket systems probably of all time. And just enjoying that and, going against different teams like that. And, maybe you would lessen the games at the end of the year instead of like having these bye weeks. Have these bye weeks later in the year instead of earlier. Like a lot of like Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn have these like meaningless byes. I'm not saying that they're meaningless, but they're just times where like you could easily expand, the season a little bit because these players need to get ready. Some of them have to get ready for the NFL ranks, and a lot of them are playing, into the in deep December and early January. And I feel like the college, football doesn't really prepare you, for that long haul of the NFL season because the college, really gets right down to it. It kind of ends in November, like the end of November.
Sure.
And going into the NFL, it goes all the way into January. So I feel like they got to expand this playoff some way, shape, or form to better, prepare these players. I'm not saying that they're not prepared yet or if at all, but I'm just saying it would just look better. It would do better for TV ratings and, more people watching more college football. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just think that like the way these kids' bodies are, like keeping it at 12, games is just fine, But I get your points on the playoff, and I just don't think that they're going to like extend games out though, because they have 9 conference games. But I do like the champion of each of these conferences getting in the playoff. Shenko, I wanted to ask you now some questions about the NFL here. We got Matt Shenko and Jets Central on Rover Sports. And Matt, when you look at the New York Giants and the way they played against the Eagles, do you think that game from Eli Manning throwing over 440 yards, do you think that cemented his chance to really be the Giants quarterback next year? Because we really haven't seen that output from Eli in quite a long time.
Well, I think it's an interesting question because, I'm really confused of where this organization is going to go next year. I don't think Eli coming back is set in stone. I mean, when you let go of your GM and your coach, they're basically GM-less right now and coachless right now, and I just don't know what direction they're going to go. I mean, depending on what coach they're going to go with. And it's just going to be really interesting how it's going to play out, especially for Eli. But I know, Jets Central, you wanted to ask me a question, so I want to let you fire away with your question right now.
I was going to say, do you think it's ironic that once McAdoo leaves and Spagnuolo kind of takes over this team, Eli Manning, obviously he's back in the starting role. All of a sudden he goes out and has like the best game of this season. Do you think that's kind of ironic that now that McAdoo is gone, like the cancer of the Giants, Eli Manning is kind of like back to what everyone thought he was at one point?
Well, I just feel like, that obviously bringing him back, it just goes to show me that McAdoo made a horrible decision of benching Eli, and it really goes to the point where, you bench your franchise quarterback, and that's basically saying that it's Eli's fault for you guys not being successful. And that's farthest from the truth. I mean, Spencer will agree with me, and you guys will agree with me, and a lot of Giants fans will as well. It all comes down to personnel. Reese, could not assemble a team at all to save his life. And, he had some success, obviously, with, some picks and back then, helping the Giants get to two Super Bowls in 07 and 11, picking some great guys in that draft. But we're in the here and now, and it's NFL is all about what have you done for me lately type business. And they haven't got it done, especially when Tom Coughlin didn't make the playoffs for so long. And, with Ben McAdoo, the way the team just, deteriorated this year, nobody wanted to play. And, you still have players that's, huge disconnect. But Spencer, I want to bring it right back to you. I know you have a question about it.
I wanted to also get into some interesting breaking news from the New York Giants. And this week they interviewed 3 potential candidates for the GM spot. They interviewed in-house guy Mark Ross, who is a Jerry Reese disciple, so to say. He's the guy that's in the organization. Then they went out and interviewed Dave Gettleman, who was with the Carolina Panthers for a long time, and he then had that huge bombastic kind of fight with Josh Norman in that contract negotiation. And then after he was released, a lot of Carolina Panthers said that they barely got along with Gettleman, that he was a cold individual to get along with. However, Gettleman did lead that team to a 15-1 season and an NFC championship. And then there's a wild card name, a television guy, a former player, Louis Riddick, actually interviewed for the Giants today. And if this were up to me, actually, who I'd want to see as the next GM, I really like the NFL Network guys. Like a couple of years ago, Mike Mayock was interviewed by the Washington Redskins, and I thought that would be a hell of a move because Mayock, he knows so much about college football. He can break down these college kids fantastic. He's a good guy, likable guy, and I just think that that's really important. And also another guy I love is Daniel Jeremiah, DJ at NFL Network. I think both these guys would kill it in their respective roles. Shenko, I want to get Jets Central and Shenko's point of view on GMs, but Shenko, you were nodding your head at Dave Gettleman. So can you kind of explain your stance there?
Well, I don't like Gettleman, especially when he comes from Carolina, because that Carolina, it's such a debacle right now, especially with the whole owners, trying to sell the team with the whole sexual abuse scandal going around.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not a good look, obviously, when for that organization. And you don't know who's involved, at the time there. So that's definitely a cause of concern. And also Jerry Reese's assistant was, Adams was interviewing, especially if Reese, was bad. I don't really like Adams at all because helping him out, that doesn't really, bode well for your organization. And I was hearing, reading these reports of how, Adams really, adamant about having this job, I should have this job, I work so hard, I put my time in. So I just think he's just a candidate that's under a bad name, and I don't want anything to, that next GM to do with any Reese ties because he's just guilty by party. And right. I don't want that. I want, clean house, like I said before, start brand spanking new, nothing from the Reese era, nothing from Ben McAdoo era, just start over with the culture and really just get down to the nitty gritty of, ground and pound, running the football down the people's throats, and really just getting back to Giants football that we all know very well.
Yeah, the one thing with the New York Giants is I'm a Jet fan, as you guys know. I pretty much
I couldn't figure that out.
I pretty much root against the Giants, but in this case, this is a move where I really hope that the Giants just don't go for the big name in the guy from Carolina, Gettleman. That would just be a mistake. I think that's just looking around the room and saying, okay, well, you've been a GM before, so you can, get the job. I don't like that idea. I don't like how he handled the Norman situation. You obviously brought up the whole thing that's going on right now, the investigation thing, whatever. Don't want to get too much into that. But, overall, I don't really necessarily like the Lewis Riddick thing. I wouldn't promote somebody within the organization. Me personally, well, Shenko, I like your point actually, about starting over, getting rid of all the negative stuff, the bad karma, whatever you want to call it, getting rid of all that stuff and kind of bringing in a new culture. Me personally, if I was running the ship in New York, I would look for a team that has drafted well over the past few seasons, one of their top scouts. And that's what the Jets did with Mike McCagnon, bringing him in from Houston. He was one of Houston's top scouts. And he's done a really nice job as the Jets general manager.
So let's think of a team that's really drafted well then. I mean,
Saints.
The Saints this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, Saints have done a fantastic job.
Marshawn Lattimore. How about Atlanta? Like bringing in these guys like Sanu, Julio Jones, like Dimitrov. I guess you could say the Vikings too. The Vikings pretty solid drafters. I mean, I know that they made the Bradford trade, which was terrible. But let me try to think of guys like Oakland drafted Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper. That was looking really good. Dallas drafted Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Philadelphia drafted, Carson Wentz. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think is some of the best? I would say like maybe Oakland or the Saints, are the best drafters.
Yeah.
Not the Browns. Nothing to do with them.
Of course not.
No, not Cleveland. I would look at teams like maybe San Francisco. I think San Francisco, they picked a lot of good players in these past few seasons. Maybe get like a young up-and-coming guy to kind of bring over because, whoever they hire, you have to assume that players are going to want to come and play for a New York City team. That's just kind of the way it is. Who doesn't want to come and play in New York? It's the greatest city in the country. And
I really like the Vikings, though, absolutely. But I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no problem. I was just going to say that I would look for a candidate that knows how to draft players because players will come to New York as far as free agency, bargaining, all that stuff. As far as trying to bring these guys in, know someone that or get someone in that knows how to draft. That's kind of my thinking.
Just for the record, can you please take Brandon Marshall back? Because, that's something in common that we both dislike. I don't like Brandon Marshall as a player. I see him all the time, on HBO, just laughing it off, like no big deal. Like it's all showbiz to him. And, he's done nothing for the Jets and he's done nothing for the Giants. All he did was drop balls for us and, just took all the cash from all of us and just not really, his head wasn't in it. And I'm just not a big fan of Brandon Marshall, but that's just for the record.
Yeah.
But I really feel like the Vikings have done a fantastic job over the past couple of years when, especially, getting lightning out of a bolt with Case Keenum. I mean, who would have thought that Case Keenum was going to lead this team to an 11-2 record right now? Like it's absolutely, unheard of. Like, Case Keenum, because Case Keenum, he put up so many great records, at Houston, and a lot of people just wrote him off as, he couldn't play, he's not tall enough, he doesn't have the tools. But he really did so well for Houston, throwing for all these school records, and the Vikings right now have caught fire, and they have a great defense now, to lead them into the playoffs. And I'm really excited for what the Vikings finally have what's in store for them, because they have been pretty decent over the past couple of years. They've drafted some very well players, well-to-do players, and they've been pretty consistent with that. They've been competitive. But yeah, I'm just excited for what the Vikings can do. I know the Eagles are on the up and rise. I hate to say it in a minute, but they're definitely figuring it out. How to win games and how to dominate games the way they've been doing. They definitely have great free agent signings as well with the key personnel with, LeGarrette Blount, Alshon Jeffrey, Jay Ajayi, and, obviously Carson Wentz. So, yeah, and also getting Nick Foles as your backup, which is paying off could pay off dividends right now, especially going into the playoffs for you, because this is the team. This is the year for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I've been saying it,
Really
for so long. This is their year.
I mean,
there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna win their first round game right now, because I have them playing. I have them playing the Saints, and the Saints are too damn good for the Eagles.
I mean, right? But
the Rams went to Seattle and won by 40. I think the Rams now are my NFC favorites now. The LA Rams.
That's not a bad pick at all. But I'm just saying, this is their year. I don't care if Carson Wentz went down. You still have a competitive, Nick Foles. I think he still has the tools to really do well. But here's the problem with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Like you said, it's their defense. Eli Manning with literally no offensive weapons to be had, throwing 400 plus yards. I mean, Eli. This goes to show you how good Eli Manning still is. He can still play at a high level and whatnot. So, and the problem with the Eagles is
have trouble stopping Kamara and Mark Ingram. They're going to have trouble stopping the run.
And the key, when you go win so many games, look at the Dallas Cowboys last year. They went 13-3, and we all said, "Oh, this is going to be a dynasty in the making." This year, they're not even. They're trying to limp into the playoffs, and they're most likely not going to get in. They need all this help. And, you just look at this team now, when's the next time you're going to be, 12-2 going into the playoffs? I mean, you look at the Marty Schottenheimers of the world and, the Dick Vermeils. Not often you win all these games and you lay an egg in the playoffs, and that's what the Eagles are heading towards.
They lost the MVP of their team, and they need everything they can get. This isn't a year where it's a very easy to go through the gauntlet of the NFC. I mean, the head coaches in the NFC are much better, I think, than the AFC. We can say that, Jets Central. We got Dan Quinn, Ron Rivera, Cam Newton's a good quarterback. We got Sean McVay, who's my coach of the year, and in the LA Rams. Then we got Sean Payton. I mean, the NFC is as strong as it's ever been before.
Zimmer.
Yes. So where do you look at the NFC right now? Do you think that there's a clear-cut winner? Do you trust the LA Rams as well? Who are the few teams that you trust in the NFC?
Are you asking me this question?
I'm asking Jets Central first. This question.
Okay.
Yeah. I got the Vikings coming out of the NFC. People keep on, looking at the Vikings and saying to themselves, they have Keenum. They're not that good, And week after week, the Vikings keep on winning games, and no one keeps giving them, and no one gives them any props. I love what this Vikings defense is, consistently putting out there. Case Keenum is putting the ball in play. He's completing tons of passes. His completion percentage is through the roof this season, especially for him. They're able to run the ball effectively. Zimmer knows how to game plan. He's like a no BS guy. I really like Minnesota. And then I got the Rams probably as my second seed.
But Minnesota has never there's never been an instance where the home team of the Super Bowl has ever won that conference.
This is the first time for anyone.
Because that kind of bothers me a little bit, that's never been done before.
Yeah, well, there's never been a 30-year-old head coach with McVay come in and just take over the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I still look at Minnesota, and they're going to play the Rams again. And Minnesota, I mean, they already played the LA Rams. It's tough to beat a team twice. And just they don't have the kind of passing attack, though. They remind me of Matt Schaub. If Phelan don't play well, they are really going to struggle versus the Saints and the Rams. But go ahead, Shenko.
No, I was just going to say, to add to your point, if I'm an Eagles fan right now, I am dreading the Los Angeles Rams coming to your building, because their offense just is lighting up, because the Eagles could not stop them 2 weeks ago. Right. And, I know they won the game, but it was just a lackluster victory for them. And when you look at the Rams are just a scary team right now. They're playing so well
right now.
And right now, they're playing their best ball they've had all year long. And when I look at the NFC playoff standings right now, they have a tough road, the Eagles in the NFC. I don't care who they play right now. I mean,
because the Rams.
The Rams are going to be right there. The Vikings obviously are down their throats now for the home field
They don't have
advantage.
to play the Vikings. They're either going to be playing the Rams, the Saints, the Falcons, or
Well,
Carolina.
you're going to have to worry about either the Vikings or the Rams in the NFC Championship, even if you do get to that point.
Right. But I don't think they're making it to the NFC Championship. I think the Saints are going to win, and I think then we're going to get Rams-Vikings again.
That would be a great matchup.
I like the Vikings a lot. I just think that a lot of people are like I was saying before, just kind of just saying, looking at the Vikings on paper and saying they have Keenum, they're not going to go far. And I think the Vikings just keep on winning games.
JC, you know what's sad? If Case Keenum craps the bed in the AFC NFC Championship, everybody will say, "Oh, we were right. We were right about him all along." Even if he makes it to the NFC Championship, that's the way these things work. And it's going to be an interesting situation with Case Keenum now.
Go ahead, Shenko.
I think the NFL standings right now, as it stands, I'm going to make a bold prediction right now with 2 weeks to go. I don't think Atlanta's making the playoffs. I know they're 9-5. They got the last spot, but I just feel like the way they've been playing the past couple games, really poorest performance on Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. They barely beat them. They should have easily routed them. I mean, Buccaneers are just a bad team. I don't care if it's a divisional game. You should win those games single-handedly. And the Falcons, the next 2 weeks, you got to go. I think the Falcons got to go play the Panthers, and they got to go play the Saints.
They do.
And that's a very tough schedule for them.
They do.
And the way that they're playing right now, I can't see them beating the Panthers or the Saints right now. I mean, they're just two teams, hot teams. They just just seems like it's a bad way for them, trying to get into the playoffs.
So who's going to be 10-6 then? The Cowboys?
It's either or Seattle. I mean, Seattle's playing a really tough game, obviously, against the Cowboys this week. Because if the Cowboys lose, obviously they're out of it. So Seahawks, I think they have, it's going to be really tough for the Seahawks. They've been battling injuries all year long. I'm not a Detroit Lion believer whatsoever. So I feel like it's either going to be either Seattle or Atlanta getting in, because that's the only way that I see any of these teams trying to, make a playoff push.
The good news for the Atlanta Falcons is they have the tie break over Dallas and Seattle.
That's true.
Both of those teams. So I think I see them beating Carolina the last week of the year. I agree with you that this week in New Orleans they're going to get squashed.
They're going to
play the Saints.
Absolutely.
Saints are getting healthy. The Saints are getting hot at the right time. Finally, their linebackers are going to come back. Kamara is going to be healthier to play now. And I like that. So I appreciate you guys coming on Rover Sports. It might have lasted a little longer than we anticipated, but it was just a really chill time talking to you guys about college football, about the GM search of the Giants. And there's going to be a lot more to unpack here after the holidays as we continue to track NFL football. So thanks a ton, guys, for hopping on.
Thanks again,
Peace.
Spence. Later,
See you
Shango.
guys.